The Constitutional Court has denied former professional tennis player and sex offender Bob Hewitt an opportunity to appeal his conviction. Last year, the former doubles champion was found guilty on 2 counts of rape and 1 of sexual assault. He was subsequently sentenced to 6 years in prison, but was allowed to stay under house arrest pending his appeal. Now, Women and Men Against Child Abuse has welcomed the court's decision to deny Hewitt the opportunity to appeal, calling it a victory for adult survivors of sexual abuse. Well, we're joined now by the director of Women and Men Against Child Abuse, Miranda Friedmann, in the studio. Miranda, good morning, and thank you very much for coming through, ma'am.
And thank you very much for having me, Dan.
Why are you looking at this as a victory?
Well, first of all, we must know that very few cases of adult survivors of child sexual abuse have really been heard in our South African courts, firstly. Secondly, we are looking at a world-renowned, a famous tennis player who really had huge fan base, credibility, enormously powerful, enormously popular. And here come a group of young women saying that when they were young, he sexually violated them. And in our world, most people are going to say this cannot be. This is a charismatic man, a man who would never have sort of done anything to challenge his career and everything. Why would he have done this? So first of all, we had to look at what was public opinion at the time and what was happening. But if we look at this, it is a massive victory. It is a watershed case. I think what really concerns me is the length of time that it has taken from initially getting this to be put on the voters, on the roll of the NPA. Remember that in 2012, Sue Ellen Sheehan approached Women and Men Against Child Abuse and said that she was struggling to get her case against Bob Hewitt put onto the roll. We then held a press conference, and then it got momentum and pressure, and the NPA eventually put it. He was then ill. It took another year approximately just to get him into court, and then through the High Court, a fantastic judgment by Judge Bam. And a good sound judgment that led to his conviction and sentence. He obviously appealed that at the appeal court, and 3 judges upheld that. It then went on to the Constitutional Court. So we have the result today of what we're calling a resounding victory for adult survivors of child sexual abuse.
Okay. And is it also a victory in the sense that, I mean, such a long time had passed, and some of these kind of cases become a very difficult ones, where
yes,
the actual crime was committed and so many years pass by before
it goes to court.
It goes to court.
Absolutely. And I think we need to understand that this issue of late disclosure is something that is becoming very well known around the world. And we South Africans also, in fact, we have a leading institute here called the Child Witness Institute, run by Karen Holleley and Karen Muller, which have shown very clearly why we need in South Africa, for instance, like crimes like rape, we need to extend that to sexual offences, where it doesn't matter how long it takes. Because when you're a child of 6 or 7 or 8 or 10, why should you have to go through this at this stage? Why can't you come later, like you do with rape, and come later and state your case when you are ready to? When you feel, as these victims have done, you can put your life on hold, literally for 5 years, as our justice system has required, and as the families of these people have had to go through and be there for them, it really, Dan, has taken a team to get to this stage. There is no way that most victims, I can tell you, having worked in the cases of sexual violence against children for over 20 years, that we have many families that can stay the distance of 5 years. After 2 or 3 years, a lot of families then decide to withdraw. They cannot put their families through this any longer.
When such cases come up, now and again you hear comments like, but why did she wait for so many years before she came out to say, I was raped, I was sexually assaulted?
Yes.
What's the answer to that? I mean, your organization has been working a lot with people
yes.
who are survivors of these kinds of crimes.
First of all, we must look that these were all children. They were around the ages between 9 and 12. 2 of them told their families about it, and their families, one of the families attempted to do something. One of the families did not believe the child. One of the families, they were both of these families, in fact, parents were very, very close friends. He used to come over and spend time with them privately, and they regarded it as a huge honor having one of the world-renowned tennis players in their family and as a family friend that would so socially entertain them. So we also need to know the difficulties that families have to make when somebody wealthy, powerful, renowned, popular, that they have to stand up against him. This is the huge thing and what we see happening around the world. And I think one of the things that this case has really shown us is no matter how powerful, how wealthy, or how famous you are, if you have sexually molested a child, you are going to be held accountable, and you are going to have to come to
court. But also,
court.
from what you've just said now, we as parents need to trust our children a little bit more than we do, especially because when we're dealing with prominent people, celebrities or famous people or powerful people.
Absolutely, and I think the world has changed in that way, Dan. I think when we look at the 60s, 70s, 80s, even early 90s, first of all, we saw very few cases coming to court, and we saw even fewer families really believing that somebody who they allowed into their home, that they trusted, that they believed had the best interests of their child. And I think we get clouded by the fact, as you say, maybe it's even just a wealthy uncle who provides support to the family, pays for school
You're right,
fees.
they don't have to be popular. Or
They don't only have to be. So we need to be on the lookout. Is there a special interest taken in this child? Is that special interest appropriate? And I think we also need to open the channels of communication. I think we can't be scared to hear, if we may hear that something has happened to our children. We need to know that if it has, they must know we are there for them. And I think the 21st century is proving that our communications have opened, and let's hope that as the years go by, sexual offences will become less and less, especially in our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miranda Friedmann, the Director of Women and Men Against Child Abuse.